some of you might be not already in the mood for listening to all this complicated stuff, so I try to guide you into these 2 full-packed days with a kind of a performance. And so for these, you must imagine that when I wake up in the morning, I realized that I had a partial memory loss. So I couldn't remember right who I am. So like these game heroes, you know that. They wake up at the start of the game and don't know what happened. And so that became all the worse when I realized that my slides were gone. So only the first slide still was intact. When I sat there at the breakfast in the morning, I was really desperate and starting to panic. What I'm doing? I'm doing the opening keynote. Wow. So this was something I could remember. But then I came up with an idea. And the idea was, hey, I can use AI. So that's what everybody is doing. And so this is what I'm trying now to do. So having a look at my first slide, I could remember so who I am a little bit and what's the topic of it, of my talk, what I sent to Jan in front, what I wanted to talk about. And so I realized that it's something about Europe and the status quo of games preserving in Europe. So and a very broad scope. Status quo, meaning, framework, condition, requirements, opportunities. All right, so then I log into the AI. Tomorrow? Okay, that's somehow a no-brainer. Yeah, let's have a look at the museums. Because if we are talking about cultural heritage, we are talking about museums. Very good, very good. All right, so. Why this? Okay, I understand here. But where I can find some, because that's of course very important. Okay, looks like that's a good situation in Europe. We have a lot of museums. Yeah, so the situation of gaming cultural game museums is should be very good. And hey, yeah, let's have a look at EFGAMP homepage. That's something I could have come up with it even in my recent state. So EFGAMP, the Association of Institutional Game Collectors of Europe, has a very important and interesting membership, and I will give you a brief overview about the members. And what you can see there, it's an interesting mixture of very official, well-established and traditional members, like the Royal Library of Denmark and also the National Library of Sweden. And then there are some other members you will see here during the conference, represented by real persons, and there are also rather grassroots initiatives like the Level Up, who is represented by Camille, and he will also represent. And this is all something established. These are all museums established in across Europe, and this is of course a very promising aspect. So let's switch back to the AI and let's ask the next question. And this is why this happened in Europe, that so many museums has been established about computer game culture. Okay, looks like that there are some parallels which you can find in the past happening with other media. So he also finds some slides about that. So should we have a look? I think so too. Yeah. Hey, that's funny. These are old slides of myself. I did when I worked at the Computer Game Museum. I haven't stopped working there, but yeah, it's still true. And I know these slides. I can explain it to you. So what I did then was looking at the film as an earlier forerunner, because film was also a new media before, and now, of course, it's well-established part of our culture. And with a lot of public funding and a lot of institutions, we get a lot of resources to preserve this part of our culture. And that's, of course, what we want to reach also as game preservers and collectors. And I think it was reasonable to state that the awareness of that movies and films are part of our cultural heritage has spread enough was when the first institution was founded. The first museum was founded to preserve and collect this kind of cultural heritage, and in the case of movies and films, it was the British Film Institute. That was the first one in 1933. So, and how does it happen? First there was the invention, then after the invention it became a public cultural good with the first cinemas. Then the industry grew. And this is the first industry association which was founded. It's actually in Hollywood, the Movie Picture Producer and Distribution Association. And then if there is a business, then of course they need marketplaces. And this was the Venice Film Festival, the first marketplace for film. And then shortly after that, it became a cultural good with the BFI. So. And now, let's have a look. And so I did the same thing with computer games. First, the invention, I decided to take Space War from '61 because it's the first real-time graphic. It was the first real-time graphic computer game. There were computer games before, but without real-time graphics. And of course, from our perspective, a computer game, a video game needs real-time graphics. And that was Space War. It was not commercial. Computers were much too expensive back then. That happened 10 years later with Computer Space. It was a big arcade. It was not a real computer. It was hardwired. The game was hardwired in hardware. But it was sold as a product, not to end consumers, but to distributors of entertainment machines, like pinballs and others at this time. And then it became a business. The first business association was founded, also in the USA. And then they had a marketplace. The first one was the E3 in 1995. And then shortly after, the first museum popped up collecting this part of our cultural heritage. And actually, it was the Computer Game Museum in Berlin, the Computer Spiele Museum, that's the CSM. And as you can imagine, I combined both slides. They are in the same scale, equal scale. And the first thing we realize is that it's the same order. So invention, commercialization, business and business marketplaces, and then last one in that order is becoming cultural heritage. And the second thing we are realizing is also the time spawns are very, very similar. So at this time when I did that slides, I was really astonished to realize how parallel the game's cultural becoming is compared to the cultural becoming of film. But now I wonder why is it important to keep it? So what's the reason to put all these efforts in it? And let me ask the AI about this. Big picture, very short statements, but yeah, let's go on with that. So why is it important? That's something to understand. That's something you might wonder, and I'm of course more than glad to ask the AI this question, because yeah, I'm still having problems to remember what comes next, and let's have a look what the AI is answering about this. Also still the big picture, but I understand that compared with the earlier times when the first computer games museum were founded in the 1990s and early 2000s, something has changed meanwhile, and social digital sphere, which makes everybody much more aware that about this cultural change which is going on because of the spread of the digital technologies. And so now we are understanding that games are an important part of a bigger thing, and this puts an extra interest into understanding games. But yeah, so because it's about Europe, I have to ask what the state of Europe is in this regards. That's what I'm doing now. So, okay. Hey, that's good. We are on the right track. That's very interesting. Okay, so there's already digital culture practices registered in European countries. The first time worldwide. The demo scene, are you remembering, are you aware what the demo scene is? I expect so. I remember also because I'm involved a little bit in that initiative. So the demo scene somehow is one of the very few digital cultures which prove that it is possible to continue your cultural practices in spite the technical base of your culture, the digital technology is changing, and without losing your cultural identity. And so somehow that is maybe something the experts has convinced in these countries to accept the demo scene as their national cultural heritage. Are there any specifics, maybe, what is digital culture? So that's something I have an interest in. So let's ask the AI about that. Okay, that makes sense. And yes, I remember when I started advocating for born digital culture, the established cultural establishment said, we also deal with digital culture. And if I ask them, so what are you collecting? What digital artifacts you are collecting? They say, we have digitalized our analog collection, and now we have a digital collection, and this is digital culture, yeah. And so it took me some time to explain that digital culture is something different than a copy of an analog artifact, a digital copy of an analog artifact. And yeah, I think the AI got it right. So these are the main differences. And so maybe let's start with this, look a little bit closer to these differences by asking the AI what are the consequences of these first difference that digital culture is depending on a complex technical technology to be alive. And let's see what the AI is answering. Okay, one must be aware, if you start collecting computer games, it's not only about the games, it's about the technological context. Let's move on and go to the second difference. Yeah, what was it again? Okay, yeah, that was it, right. Then, all right, let's ask what these consequences are. All right, seems to be not that interesting, but maybe if I ask a little bit deeper, because one might fear that if we are now coming together, that the cultural differences disappear, which we are used to have. And I will ask if this will happen now, if there are no borders anymore in cultural meanings. Okay, so we can be relaxed, that will not happen. The cultural differences and the cultural diversity still will be alive. But yeah, what's about Europe? So we are talking about Europe. How aware is Europe about this effect, and what Europe has maybe draw for consequences out of this awareness. And yeah, so maybe, because it was so nice, there's a slide which the AI can find, slide of mine again. There is, oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah. It has already found a slide, but maybe first this EU research project I remember quite well because I'm a member of it, and it's interesting in the sense that now a project is supported with EU research money, researching the grassroots of digital Europe. That is a clear sign that there's awareness growing, that Europe has its own grassroots, and this is of course something which is interesting for everybody who is collecting computer games in Europe, because that's an argument you can use in your context, in your region. And yeah, so I think I click on the arrow, even if it's not a very new one. Oh yeah, that's a bit old. And meanwhile, and having a look at the program and looking at the program in the next days, you are aware how much these approaches, these national approaches, have spawned across Europe. This conference, I think it's a very impressive proof about this awareness that still, even if digital culture and digital technology is not knowing any traditional national borders anymore, the national cultures, the traditional cultures became part of this digital versions of our culture. But there was, I think, a third difference. Let's have a look on that. right. What was it? Okay. All right. Okay, that's very interesting, because that seems to be really a very basic shift which is going on. I would be interested in the source of that. So how is the AI coming up with this thesis? And so this is something I will check, because we have a approach here, scientific approach, and so we are not just dumb end users. We want to know, where do you know this? What's the source? So let's have a look. Okay, so there's this UNESCO World Cultural Heritage list, and this is based very much on the idea of an authenticity, and something which is acknowledged as part of our culture is not allowed to be changed. And this is, of course, very different to what digital technology is doing. It's changing all the time if we are following the AI and our experience as well. So, but I wonder if there's a contradiction. Why has it said that there was already digital culture accepted as UNESCO cultural heritage? So I want to know that a little bit more, and I will ask now. Okay, so that's the difference between tangible and intangible cultural heritage. All right. So why is this interesting in our context? I want to understand that better. All right, so on the one hand, there is a contradiction to a big, or there's a distraction between digital culture and a big area of our cultural heritage. It's the tangible cultural heritage, but there is another area already established, and that's the intangible cultural heritage area. And so this is also this was established because we are very familiar with intangible cultural heritage, dances, theater, and now it looks like that this new digital culture is fitting very well to this intangible cultural heritage area. So that's important, because that gives, and that could give everybody who is collecting and preserving computer games a home, which is already established, and where you can find yourself, feel yourself familiar. You have colleagues coming from other cultural areas, and you can connect with them. So computer game collection and preservation isn't something new then. It's something which you can assume that we have done it at least since 2003, when this Intangible Cultural Heritage Convention was released by the UNESCO. All right. But now let's come to the end, and of course there's this important question. Yeah. So what are the obstacles? Because if everything would be nice, we wouldn't sit here. Yeah. So there are some challenges. And what does the AI say? What are the challenges? Yeah, I think these will be the points we will talk about in the next 2 days. But maybe as an entry, let's start about asking the AI if they can give us, if it can give us any input. Any ideas how we can solve that obstacles? And of course we have that focus for Europe. Okay, all right. All right, so I will try. Okay, no, all right, now it's solutions. Point 1. Of course, there's a big part of the solution is already there, and that's of course emulators. Emulators are programmed by the fans, by the hobbyists, by the community, and this will, I think, be a big part of the solution. How you can preserve the hardware which is necessary to make and keep games accessible. You preserve it. If you transfer it into software, you preserve it not as hardware, you preserve it and the functionality as software. Of course, it will still be a question of the interfaces, which still must be hardware, because we are analog beings, so there must be still analog contact between the medium, the work, the culture, and ourselves. Even if the culture is purely digital, we need that interfaces, input and output interfaces. So this will surely be one part we will talk about. And then I will show you, that's very quick and very important, because that's really something which is special in Europe. So what I show you is the Out of Commerce Works portal, and this is something very new, and that shows also the meaning of a federation could have, because that's the solution for these legal issues which all computer game collectors are facing, that it's copyright protected. You need, for a lot of things you need to do with the games for preservational purposes, you need the permission of the right holders. But because of the dynamic of the marketplace, the right holders are really hard to find, and of course afterwards you have find them, they must allow you to make, for example, the game accessible in an exhibition. And the Out of Commerce Works portal is something new the European Union has introduced. And if you assume works of your collection, games of your collections, as out of commerce, which means that they are not sold right now, actually you can upload the metadata of the game, title, year, design, producer, IP holder, to this portal. And if within a duration of 6 months no IP holder is coming and opting out the game, then you are able to make that game accessible to the public without permission of the rights holder for non-commercial purposes. So that's of course important. Here it's you can search, and there's the field category. And now let's have a look which categories they have established. It's books, physical hardware, software, visual works, and video games. So video games are on the same eye level than the traditional artworks. And that's, of course, very, very important. And one of the reasons why that happened is that EFGAMP has consulted the European Union before they have established this portal. And now, of course, it's up to every game collectors to fill up the portal with games out of commerce, which are out of commerce. And this will enable us, especially here in Europe, to make the cultural gaming heritage accessible, and also to do some preservational things with the artworks, like transferring them from the original data carriers to new data carriers, which is also a thing you usually need permission from the IP holder. And so this is a very good thing. And now let's go back to the PowerPoint and no description standard. Okay, that's very short because that is something which is really missing. A description standard is very important to combine the data, to make it precise, to make it open, to make it interchangeable, reusable. And that's actually what EFGAMP is in the moment starting to develop. It has started as an internal initiative, and meanwhile we have connected with this European research project about the grassroots of digital Europe. I shortly introduced to you, and this is something which will go on in the next years probably, but that's a very important missing link. And so I just want to make you aware that also there is a solution, at least in development. We will see. It's not the most sexiest thing to do, creating such an ontology, but it's very, very important. So that was my try to. That's really okay. Yeah. All right, I did it. So then, thank you.